Hello everyone! When looking at all different types of media, it is important to point out that these are all ways in which stories are told. When it comes to literary and traditional types of storytelling, these are normally put together in a narrative fashion by linking together events to form a plot. Some examples of this are novels, fables, scripts, and so on. But these are not the only ways to convey a message. This is when the concept of plastic imagination comes in. While authors can be described as logicians, plastic imagination can also be described as technological imagination, a sensory way to realize concepts and themes. In a cinematic sense, the plastic imagination refers to how a scene is filmed. It can also refer to the mise en scène. The physical properties of said scene can contribute to a larger part of the story and bring up important ideas which are not explicit in the narrative. Plastic imagination is crucial when it comes to new media. That's why it is wrong to dissect new media storytelling in a strictly narratological way. In this video, we will be looking at a variety of different concepts and try to come up with valid and interesting explanations in reference to these topics.
As Janine mentioned earlier, literary aesthetic belief relies on imagination without a sensory basis. Imagination is easily generated through the reader's mind when having to visualize specific entities and locations in literary work. For example, whenever the reader comes across a word like outlaw in a piece of text, we automatically use past descriptions that have been created by the author in order to imagine the corresponding description. In this case, we would imagine an outlaw to be a romanticized, often charismatic, or social bandit, much like Robin Hood or Billy the Kid. A different concept is applied when it comes to narrative cinema, also known as filmic narrative. There are three main concepts that must be achieved. And instead of pure imagination, the viewers are using illusion to visualize the narrative. The first concept relates to generating a mental image where a person can visualize something without it really being there. The other two concepts do not require generating mental images, but rather focus on the fundamental structure of thinking, where imagining just means having exposed thoughts.
This discussion started with the idea that it is not imagination that leads the cinematographic spectator, that in every shot of a person or object, that person or object is one and the same. Therefore, we know that the result of a montage is that the viewer believes they are viewing the same person or object. The main question is whether imagination is in the meaning or the meaning of the term imagination. An example of this theory is when a person remembers a memory from the past, but they do not have it in front of their eyes. Despite the memory being completely clear, we as humans are perfectly aware that we are not seeing said objects, but remembering it. In order to understand the role of illusion concerning sameness of a cinematographic character, we will refer to Metz's famous analysis concerning a sequence in Fritz Lang's M. This sequence shows a little girl named Elsie bouncing a ball against a warning notice that discusses a child killer. Seconds later, a sinister shadow is cast. Then, the same man may buy Elsie a balloon. In the third shot, Elsie's ball is fallen on the ground. Next, the balloons are found tangled on a telephone pole. The fifth shot shows a newspaper boy shouting that a girl has been killed. Throughout, there are sequences of the girl's mother waiting for her to come home. Metz proposes that the shots of the balloon associated together allow us to believe that all the balloons within the sequence are the same, and therefore related. This balloon acts as a substitute for Elsie's body. By replacing the little girl with the balloon, we are able to emphasize with the balloon, believing that it is the little girl. We believe this because we imagined the menace threatening her. Therefore, if the balloon suffered a disaster, the girl did too. But there is no way for the spectator to confirm that the balloons are the same in both shots. The viewer may believe that they are the same because it is not an illusion, but true belief. Or the balloons may be different, and so the spectator suggests an illusion. Motivated by perception, the viewer believes something false. This illusion is the basis for the beliefs that constitute metonymic operation, which is a figure of speech where a concept is not called by its name, rather referred to by association.
This article discusses another sense of deception, how creating an illusion is foundational to the aesthetic experience in narrative cinema and character development. The author uses the example of Russell Crowe in Gladiator, portraying the character Maximus, a Roman warrior. We accept Russell Crowe as a Roman warrior even though we know Russell Crowe is in fact an Australian actor. This type of illusion is differentiated as an aesthetic illusion because it lulls the audience into suspending their disbelief. Literary aesthetic belief relies on imagination without a sensory basis. Plastic aesthetic belief is a belief generated by pictures and sculptures. Technological aesthetic beliefs are those generated by cinematic scenes. Digital animation are also the sensory basis for aesthetic illusions. Let's deconstruct how a scene can provide the sensory basis to create a technological aesthetic belief. This scene is constructed to deepen Russell Crowe's character and to contrast the action in the scenes unfolding after. In slow motion, note the camera angle moves to look upwards at him, the swaying of his opponents in contrast to the gladiator's confidence, the raining rose petals, the audience cheering, people rushing to see him perform, and a bow that conveys his humility. These shots convey the softness, humility, and respect of a warrior who knows his skills outweigh his opponents, as well as the fear he instills in them. Without this scene, the brutality that further unfolds would arguably convey a stark killer rather than a commander and leader. Shot by shot, the scenes are compiled to deepen the character and move the narrative forward through the creation of a technological aesthetic illusion. The end goal of a sensory build towards the aesthetic illusion in the deconstructed scene is perhaps best encompassed in the following question.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
So, to conclude, even if many resources of narratological theories are applied to the study of narrative cinema, the dominant focusing should always be considered depending on the medium the narrative is in. So in other words, one really cannot apply narratological theory without taking importance of the medium, since this could result to a misunderstanding in the theory. The dominant form of aesthetic experience in new media, such as photography, cinema, digital games, video clips, etc., seem to be a technological hyperplasticity illusion that goes beyond the traditional plastic illusion linked to figurative paintings and sculpture. Both illusions, either traditional plastic or technological hyperplasticity, cannot be completely or correctly addressed by only relying on the narratives. So, to sum it all up, new media hyperplasticity is at odds with narratology, since there is a tension between them, as it is shown in the case of the scene.